Hi, I got a double trophy, 10 wins in a row with UB Tempo on Magic Online Leagues, so I want to show them to you and I'm happy to receive your feedbacks. Please tell me my misplays or what you want to see next. So this is the first league. This is the first match of the league. We are playing against Pox, which is something I really rarely play against. Of course, now we are on the play. We don't know what we are playing against, but our hand is alright. We don't have black mana, but we have a brainstorm to find it. We could theoretically play the Wasteland, but I think you will all agree that it's better to play the island first. But yeah, maybe you have a reason. If so, please tell me in the comments. And yeah, I want to brainstorm later. And here we see Swamp and Expedition map, and at this time I had no idea that this was Pox, but I should just have searched. So for example, you can go to MTG top 8 and put in Swamp and Expedition map here in main deck and format Legacy, and then you see that there are a lot of Pox decks, and then you see there's a bit of a variance, but the basic gist is you have a mono black deck with a lot of lands, so you should be sparing with the wastelands. We have Orcish Bowmaster, Dark Vigil, okay, Liliana and Ensnaring, which is really hard to play around. Like we have one Brazen Borer and we can do some crazy stuff in the late game. Like if we ultimate Tamio, then we use 2 Kaitos, we like ninjutsu in the first Kaito because you can always attack with a 0 power Tamio, and then for 10 turns we pump Kaito to make it really large, and then we like attack again with another Tamio and ninjutsu in a second or something. But it's really difficult to get around in Sandwich, especially as I have cut the second Brazen Borer from my sideboard, because I really prefer like really strong sideboard cards, like the Graveyard Hate that just blows out, that immediately wins the game against Oops the Gravedigger's Cage, or something like a Harbinger or a Barrowgolf, which is really strong with its Lifelink, or Toxic Deluge, which wins the game against a creature deck. And Brazen Borer, it just feels like, oh, it's such a small thing. Yeah, okay, you can bounce a Murktide maybe, but doesn't feel as strong. But there are some situations, like against Blood Moon, if you have basic island, or against a Chalice, or against Ensnaring Bridge. But Ensnaring Bridge is also mostly played by Painter, so I think we shouldn't change our sideboard because of Pox. But yeah, I'm really interested what you think, because I have no idea or not much experience against Pox. I guess we need to be on the offensive because they have such a grindy game. We play a brainstorm, we find the black source at least, but we find no shuffle effect, and I put back the 2 wastelands, which in hindsight I think is a mistake because they are black, they can have discard. So I think it's better to put, for example, back the 1 wasteland in Bowmaster or something, but then we cannot, we don't want to wasteland this turn anyway. I think this would have been best, but I put back 2 wastelands here, which is slightly suboptimal. We can sort these here. Okay, sorry, I made this too quick. We see Smallpox, Wasteland Hymn, Bloodchief, Thirst, the creature removal, and Mace. So Mace is also a problem for Tempo deck, but we have the Orcish Bowmaster to overload it. And I decide here to take the Bloodchief Thirst, which maybe you think is strange, because the other spells are 2 or 3 for 1. No, Smallpox mostly like a 2 for 1 because they don't have as many creatures. They also lose a land and discard a card unless their hand's already empty. But my reason here is I can daze 1 probably and force the other. But maybe you disagree, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I will do this quickly. Also, I normally want to do everything really slow and methodical, but this is just such a slog, and I think we are also very much behind here in this matchup. This is like the Delver killer, so the only way I managed to win this, I tell you now, is I just ran my opponent out of time. So here I wasteland because there's another one coming and we don't see another black source, so maybe we can force them to use the expedition map for a swamp, but they end up finding a swamp naturally, so they find other Saga, we play out the Bowmaster, and yeah, there are also not that many interesting decisions, I think, in this first match of the league. So that's why I want to do it quickly. So we attack, but maybe we find something. There's the smallpox. We forced the smallpox. I think this is quite alright because we want to have the lands. There's a second Ursa Saga, and now we slowly lose because they have construct tokens which are bigger than our Bowmaster. They also get the Retrofitter Foundry in. The Nethergolf just gets bounced with the maze of it. There's also a Mishra's Factory which grows the constructs. And so yeah, we fall more and more behind, and at this point, like, we finally find a Tamio. I think Kaito and Tamio are good because they give us card advantage, but they kill it, and now it's too late. And yeah, at this point, we get a Bowmaster to make the construct a bit smaller. But yeah, I think their late game engine is online. We have at least the Barrow Golf, and Barrow Golf is really good at stalling the board here until they find a removal. But I think they also end up finding a removal for the Barrow Golf here. Let's see. There's a Liliana. We sacrifice something, and I think they end up finding a Bloodchief Thirst. Oh, it's a fell. Okay, and now at this point we lost. We cannot really do much. And the first game is over, and let's go to the second one. Okay, for the second one, I'm also really unsure, but I think, okay, they don't have much creatures. They also didn't show me Bowmaster or Opposition Agent or something, so I just take out all the removal, or almost all, I think. I think I have one Edict, which also can kill Liliana. We take out the Nihil Spellbomb because it didn't do something with the graveyard. And yeah, the rest is like useless cards. I mean, we could think about Toxic Deluge because they have so many tokens, but I think at this point we are the aggressor. This doesn't fit our strategy. We could consign a Saga, but also it's better to just bring in the Harbingers and try to win this way. And we have a hand which is okay. And we get Thoughtseized, and we lose the Brazen Borer. We used the Brainstorm to, I think, hide the... I think it was a Bowmaster. Sorry, now I did it too fast. I tried to slow down a bit. So we waste the Urborg, and I think I wasted too much here. I think this wasn't a good idea because at this point I didn't know the deck list, didn't know that they have so many cards. I think it would have been better to do something else. However, at this point maybe we can play around Smallpox here, but we can also just overload the removal. So here we play Barrow Golf number 1. And this, now we get Smallpoxed. Okay, at least we're really lucky to find another land. Now there's a Liliana, which we can force. And Barrow Golf is really, really good because it has lifelink. But more importantly, it draws us cards. And their deck is really grindy. Kaito is really strong. And now we also have the Harbinger. And what do they do? So they play Ensnaring Bridge. And this is the card which we have difficulties, and this is, I think, a really big blunder I made here, in that I discarded the Orcish Bowmaster because they have 0 cards in hand. We cannot attack. So the Barrow Golf, I mean, it's really good once they get rid of the Ensnaring Bridge, but the Orcish Bowmaster would provide 2 creatures as fodder for Liliana, would also make Liliana smaller. We have a Harbinger in play, so maybe they don't draw a second Black Source because the Harbinger overrules the Urborg. It's really difficult for me always with the layers, with Blood Moon and so on. We can use Kaito to loot, or we can also use the emblem, I mean Surveil. We don't draw a card, but still we can try to find the Brazen Borer. Tamio is also really, really strong in this situation. The problem is, if they make us sacrifice a creature, then they have the Castle Locktrain engine going. And so they lose 1 life and draw a card every turn probably. Okay, and here I end up playing the Tamio, and I sacrificed Sorry, I did this too fast. I think it was counter spells like Force of Negation. So we shuffle. We are looking for a Brazen Borer. So again, sorry for doing this so fast, but it's just a very grindy matchup. And most of the decisions don't matter. So I try to play fast because I have only 8 minutes and I need to win 2 games. At least we have Tamio to get clues. But Liliana is ticking up, and yeah, we made this mistake here. We should have kept the Bowmaster, and I also think it would have been better here to surveil. So getting the emblem up here is only good if, okay, we can wait until something big enters game and the Ensnaring Witch gets taken out, but I think this won't happen. So I think just surveilling is better here. Okay, we attack, we ponder, we only find wasteland and lands. Yeah, this is not that great. We crack a clue, we find a Thoughtseize, and now at least we have our own Planeswalker, so we could also go for Tamio Ultimate, and Liliana goes +1, so 4 turns to Ultimate, and here it's only 3 turns. So this is quite good. Wasteland, we get Baleful Strix, and we should be able to just ultimate our Planeswalker here. There's Ghost Vacuum, and they also have a lot of mana. And the problem is now there's an Orcish Bowmaster, so we cannot ultimate. We draw the Edict and get rid of the Liliana at least. They have 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. They can use the Ghost Vacuum, so they can threaten another Bowmaster. So we are pondering. We try to find removal, so we can ultimate Tamio. And there's like the opponent is low on time, and the opponent has a lot of creatures now. And we just play really, really quickly and win on time. And yeah, sorry if this first game or this first match is not very exciting. There's the second, it's Ensnaring Witch, and like there's no chance of finishing the game. So I'm just passing the turn. And this is situations like this is also why Barrowgolf is really, really strong as a stabilizer, because even if they now decide they want to break out of the Ensnaring Witch and draw cards, they can just never do some profitable attack around the Barrowgolf, and yeah, at some point they just run out of time and lose due to this. So yeah, maybe not the most interesting first match of the league, but yeah, maybe you have advice. Maybe I did everything totally wrong. Show me in the comment, and we go to something more exciting for the next one. For game 2, we are on the play against Chickers, an unknown opponent. We have a strong 7-card hand. The only problem is we have only 1 land. We could fetch basic and play Tamio. I think this is best against the unknown. We even have a Daze as protection, and then second turn we can fetch for, we can ponder to find a black source. So let's do that. Yes, Island and Tamio. And I often see people playing Ponder first. That's okay if you are playing against a known opponent. Maybe you know they are on a heavy combo, but in the blind, I prefer to play Tamio first. And in general with tempo decks, that's, I think the point of tempo decks is often that you want to play your threats out first. But of course there are exceptions, like if you need security or something. So the opponent has Yorion and plays basic island and ponder. So yeah, it's not Death and Taxes probably. Let's see what they play. Probably something control-y. So our start is already very, very good. And we have the Tamio, and now we draw the Underground Sea, which is really, really good, because now we don't need to ponder to find for one. And I think we can play the Orcish Bowmaster now, or attack first maybe. Shouldn't really matter much in this case. So in this case here, yeah, I decide to play Orcish Bowmaster first. we have days backup, and I mean, we don't have the surprise effect, but I find that nowadays people are so used to Bowmaster that surprising them doesn't work, so I just do it in the main phase here. But I'm really interested what you think. Should I just have kept open Island Underground Sea, but I have it so often that the control opponent just plays nothing, passes the turn, and then I play end of turn Bowmaster, and then they play the Brainstorm in response to the Bowmaster. So I prefer to do it like this, and they play up the Beanstalk and I daze it. I mean, we could also say we already have the Orcish Bowmaster to punish it, but in general we don't have that much life point pressure, so I think we are doing more card advantage pressure, as I like to call it. And so we play the Nihil Spellbomb, and the reason I do it against this Yorion opponent is that it's possible that they play Murktide Regent, and this deck has big problems with Murktide Regent because my main removal spell is Fatal Push, and I only have one Brazen Borer, and okay, we also have Kaito, but getting this in is also difficult. We have normally one main deck removal that can kill Murktide Battle, that is like a Shoot the Sheriff or Go for the Throat or something, and the Brazen Borer, and I don't have any of those in hand. Of course Kaito also helps, but I think I'm reasonably far ahead right now that I can play safe, so I like to play risky in the early game and then safe against, in this case. And so I think, yeah, it's good to play the Spellbomb, because next turn they could just play a land, and then they could make a 4/4 Murktide, or they could next turn play a land, play a Ponder or something, and then play a 5/5 Murktide. And while it's not that large, for me it's really hard to beat with the stuff I have right now, and just attacking with Tamio puts clues in game. So I just use the Spellbomb right now to see what I get. And I attack with Tamio and the Bowmaster. And it's often good to just attack even with stuff that doesn't do anything. If you have Kaito, so you can bluff Kaito, and then I cannot play a land because I dazed, so opponent is up, and now I'm tapped out, so now it's a bit risky. However, because we exiled the graveyard, one of our biggest worries, which is Murktide, is not possible, so they can play another Beanstalk. That's okay. What we are worried right now is something like a board wipe, or also Triumph of St. Catherine, but until now we didn't see white mana, so this could just be a Bug Beanstalk or something. But I mean, we have Yorion, so it's Bug normally doesn't play Yorion, so I think it's something with white and a more control-y, slower version. Okay, so Orcish Bowmaster alone is normally not enough. Yeah, we see white mana. Okay, and now they probably Swords to Plowshare something. Unfortunately, we don't have another days. Okay, it's Prismatic Ending. Yeah, but at this point we already have 2 clues, and we still have the Bowmaster in play. We have a bit too many cantrips, and now the question is if we should play more threats or not. And the thing is, I'm mostly scared about Supreme Verdict right now, because if I play a bunch of threats, I should be able to close out the game. However, Supreme Verdict goes double white, blue and 1, so it's possible that next turn they play Supreme Verdict, but I'm also not sure if they always play it. Like, I don't play it in my Beanstalk deck. I normally play what's it called, the Miracle spell, and so I think we don't need to be that worried. So I think it's better to just go on the gas pedal. So Force of Will is also really good, because we want to force their, I don't know, maybe their threat or their triumph or something, or their removal. Yeah, but we also have a land drop open. I mean, ideally we would want to get the Nethergolf and the Force. I think the best one here is to play, take the Force of Will and then brainstorm. So we also take the Goyfs and then we can brainstorm away the Ponders maybe. So yes, we do this. And we attack first. I mean, they don't have black, so they cannot have snuff out or something. So the timing doesn't matter that much. Okay, and I decide here to not play out another Goyf, so we can like bluff another Bowmaster. That's also interesting. That like if I analyze a game afterwards, I often see it differently. And they show us red as well, so this could be something like 4th Aerolingus or something. And now, in the end step, we can either play the Brainstorm or crack the clues. So Brainstorm is probably better. Okay, what do they do now? They play a Leyline Binding. We can force it now before they draw the card, and I think it's important right now to force this because they are on 10 life and they have a Beanstalk, so this is really useful to get the trigger, to get the triggers to close this game out fast. And there is a Spell Pierce. Okay, this happens. And Spell Pierce is on the Brainstorm. It's not really that strong. I don't know why they... I think they drew the Spell Pierce with the trigger, so it's good that we did it in this order. Otherwise they could have countered the Force and then... Or did we have... no, at this point we still had 2 mana. Okay, good. Now what should we do? We should pressure their life. They have red mana open. Probably they don't have that much red before sideboarding, maybe 1/4 Aerolingus or something. They probably don't play Pyroblast mainboard. We have the Nether Golf, but I think we should just attack first. I mean, could be possible that we ponder into another Bowmaster, but we already have 4 damage on board. So now we are a bit, this is risky if they have a board wipe, but on the other hand, if they play several removal spells, it's better. And again, I decide here to not care about the board wipe that much because, they can come back against like 1 or 2 threats. They play Uro, so they get 3 life, but we do 1 damage with the ping, and then also the army gets 1 bigger, so effectively they only got 1 life. And okay, what do they do now? Prismatic Ending, but they still give up because we still do enough damage. I think I would have continued to play because we just do 5 damage. Okay, they go down to 2. Yeah, it's hard. Then they fetch to 1. Maybe really difficult to stop. But yeah, let's go to game 2. Okay, for sideboarding, because I didn't see black for Bowmasters, I think Fatal Push is really useless, so I boarded those out, and I also boarded out the Dazes, because we are on the draw, and also I think they may board in Carpet of Flowers, so I just brought in 1 Blue Blast for the red spells, like Red Elemental Blast or 4th Aerolingus. Then the 2 Barrow Golfs, I mean, they are not perfect against white, but still there are threats, and if they get through, they give card advantage. Then Force of Negation, it's a bit debatable against control, but I thought, okay, let's take out Daze and bring in Force of Negation, so we can counter the Beanstalk and the Carpet of Flowers especially. And maybe also the Miracle board wipe. I brought in Harbinger of the Seas. We can often screw them of color. However, that's really important that we counter the Carpet of Flowers. And I kept in the Go for the Throat because maybe they play Triumph or something. So I want at least 1 out. And also Childred's Edict for creatures or planeswalkers. And we still have the Brazen Borer. And also the Nihil Spellbomb I kept in because, we saw Euro, and we also, I think we saw the land which puts spells from the graveyard Mystic Sanctuary. So I think 1 Nihil Spellbomb is fine. Okay, let's try this out. So we are on the draw. Our hand doesn't have a land, so we need to mulligan it. And this hand looks good because it has a clear plan to victory. So the idea, what we want to do is we want to Thoughtseize turn 1 to clear the way, Bowmaster turn 2 to put the pressure up, and then turn 3 we want to play the Harbinger as a lock piece. And in case they play Carpet of Flowers, we can, the Harbinger is useless anyways, so we can just pitch it to force. And the Nethergolf is also really good as just putting pressure, but it doesn't fit our game plan, right? So we put the Nethergolf away, even though it's a good card, and we try it this way. Okay, what does the opponent do? Opponent plays Carpet, and yes, we have to force here because I mean, we can play on 1 island, but still the Carpet is completely useless. So we have to abandon our mana denial or like our Harbinger plan. But we can still play Thoughtseize and Orcish Bowmaster, and they won't play many wastelands. So I think it's best to just use the Underground Sea here and play the Thoughtseize, and our Thoughtseize showed the Brainstorm, Euro, Leyline Binding, and up the Beanstalk and no land. So maybe we can strand them. I mean, it's risky if they draw a land. They can play up the Beanstalk, but still we have the Orcish Bowmaster and they don't have a force. So in this case, I decided here to take the Brainstorm and maybe try to make them miss the land drop. And it didn't work. They drew up the Beanstalk, but at least it's a wasteland. So while they have up the Beanstalk up, they drew a card and they have the wasteland. At least, I mean, they still don't have white mana, and they also don't have enough mana for Uro, and also not that much colored mana. And yeah, you see also, like often I see people playing scared against Wasteland when they are on tempo against control, and you see here often they cannot risk using the Wasteland. So yeah, we don't really have a choice. We can fetch for basic Swamp here. It's probably better in case we draw Underground Sea and Harbinger, but I decide here to go for Underground Sea to maybe easier to play the Force of Negation more easy. And they drew lands, so they had a really good draw. They can use Leyline Binding, but at least we get the Orcish Bowmaster trigger. So yeah, taking the Brainstorm didn't work out that well, but at least we get the second Bowmaster, and I play 4 Bowmasters in my online list. I need to buy a 4th one, but they're really expensive right now in this variant. And yeah, we do it a bit quickly because there are not many decisions here. Okay, we have 5 mana. They are on, I mean, we have 5 power, so a 3-turn clock. However, they have their engine going, and they have the Uro in the graveyard. So what can we do? I mean, we can just attack and keep up the Force of Negation, or we can use the Brainstorm, but the question is, what do we want to find? Like something like land and discard or something. So here I decide to just try to rush them down. So we attack with Orcish Bowmasters, and they have here a dual shot, which is interesting, but they don't want to have it, so they use here the Elegant Prowler. And interesting, we took the Brainstorm to keep them off lands, but instead they are flooding out. Can also happen. And so now we have Force of Will, and this means we can now use the Brainstorm because we now have the blue card. So I think now we should, but I don't do it. Okay, there's just, and the opponent just scoops, but like we still have Force of Negation and Force of Will. So that was it for match 2. It's normally a difficult matchup, but it's doable, especially if we have more experience, and with the 4 Bowmasters. Yeah, this is definitely doable, but also depends. Like if they play a lot of Carpet of Flowers in the sideboard, and like also Triumph of St. Catherine, it gets difficult. But let's go to match number 3. We are on the play in match 3 and we have a hand which is really strong, especially when Tamio is good. So like we hope to not play against Eldrazi, but we hope that in general. So we don't have another Golf, but you have the Tamio. We fetch Island to be sure. Maybe you could tell me, maybe you want to fetch Underground Sea in this place. Tell me in the comments. But in this spot, I think this deck just has such an easy time fetching basics that it's often not that punishing. And we have 4 looks next turn with the Brainstorm to find one of our many black sources. I think we have like 14 or something. Okay, there is the Vault of Whispers and Mox Opal, so looks like Black Saga Storm, which is a matchup I have played so much and also I've lost a lot. So I think my negative record was like 9 losses in a row, and then I won like 1 out of 11 against our local Storm player Paul, who is really strong with this deck. And you never know what happens, right? You keep a hand with Force of Will, Force of Negation, Thoughtseize, then you get killed by Saga tokens, or maybe you have removal and then they storm you out. They have so many win conditions. They can do Bowmaster plus Echo, or just a normal Besiege, Geas Will, and maybe you bought in Grave Hate. And yeah, I want to publish a video with a sideboard guide for this deck, and I think this is really unintuitive. So what I figured out after so many games against this deck is that actually it's really useful to have Harbinger, especially if you pair it with Nulrod, because then they often cannot do anything because they cannot tap their artifact lands with Nulrod, and they don't have black mana from either their lands or their artifacts unless they play basic Swamp. And yeah, especially you often get killed by the Saga tokens. And yeah, this Storm deck, this Black Saga Storm deck is actually quite strong against this slow tempo deck because we cannot kill quickly, so they often can go multiple times for their combo or go for one of their many plan Bs. So we decide here to flip Tamio after getting a clue, and we find more lands. I think one land should be enough, but the Fatal Push is not really great, so we put away the Fatal Push and the 3rd land, and we uptick Tamio. So normally our game plan against this matchup is shaving Tamios, but if you have a Tamio, it's often great to force something and then get the force back with Tamio. And here, yeah, we should Thoughtseize to see what they have, because they have so many possibilities. They try to entomb for an Echo of Eons, and we try to daze it. And what do they do? Okay, it gets through. And we see another Echo, okay, and Besiege the Mirror, and it's better here to take the Besiege because they often want the Echo in the graveyard anyways. This is also one of the dangers of Thoughtseize in this matchup, that sometimes they only have Echo, but I still think we shouldn't cut the discard because it's so strong in general. And yeah, here's the Saga plant, and this is what makes this deck so dangerous. We have to stop Echo, we have to stop Besiege, we have to stop Saga tokens. I think this game is really good at showing why this deck is so dangerous, especially for UB tempo, because if you play, let's say, Grixis Delver or Rug Delver, you can play your Delver or Darcy turn 1 and like surveil away the non-important spells and like counter one key spell and then kill them quickly on turn 4 often, but this UB deck cannot finish it quickly, and we have to force the Echo here. And now normally again my game plan would be to downtick Tamio to get the force. However, this is a bit of a special situation because our Storm opponent is on 0 cards, so I decide here to risk it and go for the ultimate of Tamio. We see Orcish Bowmaster and Nethergolf, and this is not so important right now. I want removal and counter spells, and I find a Brazen Borer. This is great. And okay, we play out a basic island and pass. And now the danger is if the opponent finds a mana source, they can give it haste and attack with the construct, but we are lucky that they don't draw one of their many mana sources, and we are lucky again that we draw the fatal push, so now we can just go for the ultimate in next turn. So they make a token and they go into the third chapter, and I thought, okay, the only way we lose now is if they use the Warza Saga to get a pithing needle. I don't think they have one, but just make sure we don't lose. So we wait for them to equip the lava spore boots, so they use more resources, right? They don't harass us, they that try to equip, and we just have the removal for both tokens, and then we go for the ultimate of Tamio and we win. So let's go to sideboarding. Okay, let's look first what we want to bring in. So blue Elemental Blast could be useful in case they play this multicolored enchantment, but this is not good enough because often they don't play it, and also that's just one card and we didn't see any other red cards like Burning Wish or something. Don't note those. Consign obviously in, yes. Then one of those unintuitive things which you get with lots of matchup experience is that Nihil Spellbomb is bad because if they use Lion's Eye Diamond to discard Echo of Eons, they never lose priority, so there is no possibility to exiling their graveyard. So Nihil Spellbomb only works against Besiege into Gea's Will, but they have so many win conditions that it's normally not worth it, but we bring in the Gravedigger's Cage. We can bring in one Borogolf. It's surprisingly good because against Storm, life points actually matter, especially, I mean, normally maybe not enough, but in this case, because there are often some cases where they go for Empty the Warrens or they go for Saga tokens, and just having a Borogolf is really good. Also, don't play any Murktide regions right now because of damage raises. There's so many times where I have a Murktide, and even if I play and maybe another it gets killed. I have a 11/11 Murktide, but I'm at low life and cannot attack because the opponent has a Delver and I'm at 3 or something. So for me personally, the Borogolfs have been working out really well. Even in this matchup, I sometimes bring in a second one. So Force of Negation, obviously, yes. Now Harbinger, this is one of those experience things because it's just really, really good to have against the Sagas because they have so many artifacts and we don't always have the Wasteland ready, so they normally just kill us with like 7/7 or 8/8 Saga tokens. Sheldred's Edict we don't need. Null Rod is of course really, really good, and it's in the sideboard especially for this matchup. So sometimes if I spec it locally a lot of Storm, then I even play like 2 Null Rods or a Powder Keg or something. And cards we don't want, so we can take out the Baleful Strix. I mean, it's blue for forces, but we should have enough blue count. We can shave on Tamio. We could also take out the Borogolfs, but here I decide to keep it and bring one in. We can take out most of the fatal pushes. The Nihil Spellbomb, one of the Kaitos. I mean, it's great if it's in, but it's a bit difficult to get so late in the game. So yeah, it's a bit debatable, but between Kaito and Borogolf, actually I often like Borogolf more just because of the Warza Saga token damage raises or the Empty the Warrens case. So we have an out to Empty the Warrens, and Brazen Borer is not good enough. So this is how our sideboard looks now. We also brought out the basic island, and our hand is really strong. I mean, we don't have the Null Rod, that would be perfect, but we still have the Force, the Tamio, and the Bowmasters. So we could now try to ponder for days or something, but I think in this case, because but the opponent starts anyways. So let's see what they do first. They play a lot of artifacts and we don't counter. So maybe I do this wrong, but normally I reserve my Force in this matchup for Veil of Summer, because then they often go for Echo and give you another Force. And yeah, the big payoff. Sometimes it's it's the Orcish Bowmaster, but most of the time Echo and Besiege and so on. But yeah, maybe I should force Dark Rituals also more. But it's really hard to know what they have. So deciding what to force is really difficult. So here we could go for an aggressive line and deploy Tamio, which, like I said, I really like. But they have nothing going on. So it also is possible that we just keep Consign to Memory open, because now is a really dangerous spot and they can often get around one Force of Will. And Consign also does not get stopped by Veil. We haven't seen Green Mana and Veil of Summer, so we shouldn't expect this, but there are many colorless spells. So yeah, besides, I mean, of course, I said normally I like to start with Tamio early, but in this case I thought it's better. So, but now we should deploy either Tamio, or we can of course just ignore Tamio, use it as pitch card and use Orcish Bowmaster. So again, I decide to not deploy the Tamio, which makes it even worse. Opponent just passes, so we can at least get the Orcish Bowmaster going. Problem is they often play Bowmasters, so they can kill our Bowmaster with their Bowmaster. But the thing is, we have the Force for their Bowmaster, and we even have another one. And at this point, we probably don't deploy. But now we decide to deploy the Tamio. This is also debatable. I could also have kept up Consign, and I could have pondered and kept up Bowmaster or Consign. I could have kept up all the mana, so lots of lines here. I decide to finally deploy the Tamio. The advantage of that is that I can generate clues, but I'm not sure. I think in this case there are many possible lines, and yeah, please tell me what you would have done, because yeah, Tamio this late in the game is not that strong, but at least we have it in. We didn't get punished for deploying the Tamio at this point, and we can play the next Bowmaster, and we probably again have to force if they play a Bowmaster. And also another point which is really difficult against Black Saga Storm is there are several variations. Maybe sometimes they don't play Bowmaster, or they have some strange Rosa Saga tutor target. So, but yeah, now we are in a strong situation. I mean, we could have a lot of clues if we didn't tap out, if we tapped out early for Tamio. But you saw it right in game 1. I just played Tamio turn 1, and now in game 2 I just didn't play it for a while. And the reason is, first I was in game 1 on the play with a Daze as backup, and now I am on the draw and I have Consign. So this is a different situation. So you cannot say, oh, always play Tamio early. It's just what's good to do. So here I decide to not ponder and just use the ponder for now as a pitch card. There's also Saga, and we consign the trigger and the opponent just scoops, and let's go to the final game and see if we get the trophy. Oh, sorry, it's not match 5, it's match 4, and we are on the play. We are lucky with the dice roll again, and we have a good hand. We could go for basic island here, but in this case I don't really know why, but I decided to go for underground Sea Tamio in case we draw a brainstorm maybe. And yeah, this is a bit greedy. If they play something like mono red Stompy, then they could punish us if they can do a turn 1 Blood Moon. But on the other hand, if we draw a brainstorm, we can flip Tamio and use the fetch land to shuffle away bad cards. So I think it's quite clear, at least from my perspective, that it's the best play to play Tamio first, because we don't know what the matchup is. So we don't know what we want to search with Ponder. Are we looking for threats or counter magic or something else? Okay, they play Ancient Tomb, so this could be any number of things, but Chalice is on our mind, but fortunately they don't play Chalice, so let's attack first, get a clue, so we get some information whether Tamio survives or not. I mean, they could, for example, play Dismember or something, even though the probability isn't that high. And okay, we get the clue, and now we can ponder and see what we will draw in the next turns. So this could also be Eldrazi or something. And we see another Tamio, which we don't really need. Orcish Bowmasters is probably not that useful. I mean, there are blue Ancient Tomb decks, but most are not. And there is a Force, but we don't have a blue card, and we need one more turn to enable the Force. I think it's better to shuffle this. But yeah, I'm interested in what you think. Because a Daze would be useful, because it seems like they don't have a 2-mana play, so they must have a 3-mana play or a 4-mana play. So we shovel this away, and we still draw the Force, and now we can waste their Ancient Tomb. And then hopefully they don't have a play. If they don't have a play, turn 1 they play a mountain, okay. So we can already exclude something like 8-cast or something. Maybe it's Moonstompy or something else. And we attack with Tamio. And we should actually we attack. We should now play the Brainstorm, and we see we have a blue card for Force, which is really good. We should count the Wasteland as a spell, so it would be good to have 3 mana, but we can shuffle away the Undercity Sewers, and we are not sure if we need removal or not in the matchup, or how much we need. So I decide to put Undercity Sewers and go for the Throat back, and then we can play the fetch land. And then we can decide whether we want to keep the second removal spell or not. We uptick Tamio, and now we could play for basic Bloodstained Mire can get basic Swamp, and Scalding Tarn can get basic Island. But this Blood Moon we can force, and we don't have a blue spell that's not free, so I think it's better here to play the Bloodstained Mire, so in case they play a Magus of the Moon, we don't have to force, but instead we can just kill it. But it turns out it's actually Goblins, which is not very common anymore after the Namesticker Goblin ban. They play a Battlecry Goblin, and now we have a choice. We can Fatal Push it right now, but we actually want to take the second removal spell, so I think it's better to not push here, even though we waste 1 mana. But I think having removal is good, especially as we uptick Tamio, so we can go for an ultimate. We have now 2 removal spells, and if we destroy the cavern, we can also counter, and the opponent scoops, and we go into the next game of match 4. So for sideboarding against Goblins on the draw, I decide to get rid of Daze, of Nihil Spellbomb, of course, because I don't think they do anything with their graveyard, and also Thoughtseize, because I think this could become a grindy top deck battle, and I'm not sure, maybe you think it's better to take the Thoughtseize, but I think this doesn't really help, because their deck is also really homogeneous, so they have a lot of goblins, and if we take one, they just play another, and also it's an aggressive matchup where we are low on life. So this is my cuts, and I bring in the 2 blue elemental blasts, of course, then the 2 barrel golfs, really strong, the 2 force of negations against something like Chalice of the Void, or Ether Vial, or I don't know, Blood Moon, something like this. And of course also the removal, Sheoldred's Edict, and also Toxic Deluge in case they flood the board. Maybe we can just stick a Tamio and flip it, or play a Barrow Golf afterwards and win. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you disagree, if you say Thoughtseize is much better. I could also understand that, because Force of Negation doesn't counter the Goblins, and also they have the Cavern of Souls. But let's try it. So we have a hand which is okay. I mean, we have 2 Barrow Golfs, and we also have 2 Forces and 2 Pitch Cards. The only problem is we don't have a second land. So if they play something like Cavern of Souls into Goblin Lackey and we don't draw lands, we are in big trouble. But I think this is still keepable, especially as I'm also the kind of person who keeps a lot of hands. So we are lucky and draw the Polluted Delta. And the opponent, okay, plays the black-red Surveil land. So I think we didn't see red spells in the first game. So there are some black goblins. Sorry, we didn't see black in the first league. There's a Ether Vial. So yeah, we wanted to force that. So probably best to Force of Negation, pitching Force of Will. But we could also have pitched the Brazen Borer, but I think having the Brazen Borer is useful. And yeah, I think forcing an early Aether Vial is useful because it's their way on outgrinding us. There are several goblins that tutor for other goblins, and then also our wastelands don't do anything. And yeah, it just increases their threat by a lot. And we play out the land and just pass. We don't know. Maybe they don't play Blood Moon because they have black spells and we didn't see basic Swamp. But with this deck, I think we can often just be safe and fetch a few basics at good spots. So Fatal Push is normally really good in the matchup, but we want the third land. And we already have a push, so we put this into the graveyard, we draw removal, so we can survive for a short while, but yeah, there's stuff like this, Cavern of Souls, okay, we really need a next land, and there is the, which one is it? Goblin Ringleader, okay, yeah, that's how they can outgrind us, so we can still kill it end of turn. It's probably best because we hope we will draw 2 mana. We hope we draw a land so we can cast the Barrogoyf next turn. And so we do that. We just push it because Go for the Throat can kill larger creatures easier. And now we are lucky to draw the land and we play the Barrogoyf, which is a 3/4. So maybe they play something like Fury, or there's this Goblin, I think, which does as much damage as you have goblins. But this is really, really strong, which is also why I have Barrogoyf in the main. So there's a Siege Gang Lieutenant. Okay, we cannot counter it. It's a 1/1. And they can make us lose life. Well, we don't really care about this, but the thing we care about most with this thing is that if we attack, they can block the Barrogoyf and then sacrifice a goblin and the lifelink doesn't happen. So we should kill this Siege Gang Lieutenant here just because life gain is important in the matchup, and they will probably just jump with the goblin tokens. Okay, so we do that. Now they decide to it can be sacrificed to itself. It doesn't say sacrifice another goblin. And now we could bounce one of the tokens, but I think this is not the correct spot for this because then they will just jump block with the other. They play Pyrokinesis and we can force it. And after that, we already have instant in the graveyard. Yes, so we win this. Opponent scoops, we win the second game, and now let's go to the final one. Okay, on to the final round. So we have a really great hand. We have triple force against unfair, we have double removal against fair. The only thing we don't have is a second land and a threat, but I think we cannot mulligan this, or at least I won't, because in general I'm often keeping risky hands. And yeah, if it's like fast combo, we are very well set up, and yeah, hopefully we find a land. Opponent is opening on Flooded Strand. We are trying to go for the Surveil land, but maybe in case it would have been a Blood Moon deck or something, then we could have fetched basic. So Polluted Delta can of course fetch either one, but we use Undercity Sewers and see if there's a land on top. And there is a land on top. Opponent, I think, mulliganed to 6, yeah, because they drew one card to 8 to 7 and then played the land. We kept the 7 and we saw the Flooded Strand. Okay, this is great. And this is our graveyard. So what can we do now? We don't know what it is. This Flooded Strand can be many things. And yeah, we also cannot do anything. So I guess it's just best to path. And the opponent fetches for Undercity Sewers. Okay, could be UB Reanimator, UB Tempo, or Doomsday or something. And opponent uses Thoughtseize on us, and it's not worth it to force here. Our hand is quite redundant. They take Kaito, so it's probably not combo, but could also be combo, and they think they cannot get through our forces anyways. And Preordain, so it's probably a combo deck because UB Tempo normally doesn't play it. Reanimator also, so probably Doomsday. And we played Tamio, which is really good in this position because it allows us to reload here on our forces. And the opponent plays the Tundra and also Tamio. So okay, so now it looks like Esper control, but Preordain is really strange. And we could force Tamio, but it's not worth it because we have the removal. The problem is it's always tricky with the timing because they have 2 mana up and they could use a Brainstorm to flip Tamio in response. So it's probably best if we first play our land and then we attack, and now we can, yeah, they have to think about us having Kaito, but they can just block with Tamio. So maybe for the bluff value, it would be better to kill Tamio first, but I think the bluff value isn't high. So they will just block, always remember this, block a Tamio with a Tamio in case there is Kaito, and then we have the clue token. So now the Tamio improves this position a lot because we now can use the clues, and there's a fatal push of us in the upkeep, so I decided to fire it off now because I don't want to give them clues and also I don't want to give them cards. And the opponent chooses to brainstorm, so we have 2 choices. We could play go for the throat, but I decide I think here to just force it because then I mean both is a 2 for 1, but in this case they don't have a brainstorm, so this gets through and now we are in a strong position. Opponent ponders and we need to go to the game log, and the opponent, this is something I did wrong at the start. I never looked if they shuffle or not. And the opponent shuffles their library, they're looking for something and draws a ponder. Okay, and there's another ponder. And the land. And this time it's no shuffle. Okay, so maybe they were looking for a land and found it, or they just want to hide the good cards. That's why they don't shuffle. It's also possible. Okay, so no shuffle with the first ponder, shuffle with the second ponder. Okay, maybe looking for the land. And we have here our Tamio, and it's probably correct to first attack. Then we get the clue. And we can play out the ponder, but we can also just keep it, or we can also use the clue token now. There are many lines here, so I decided for ponder to ponder now. The problem is it's risky. If we don't find a blue card, then the shields are down. I find a blue card, and I think in this spot it's could be a good idea to use the Wasteland to get rid of the Tundra, so they don't have white mana. And then we can, at least it was my idea, but they can fetch another, but cutting them off the mana they have the least. And then we can put the days on top, and in case they play something we want to force, we can use the clue token to draw the days, and then we can use the ponder the next turn depending on what happens. So this is what I did here. Stacking in this way, wasting. But yeah, opponent gets a scrubland now, okay. and plays a Teferi, which is something I didn't think about, but at least we can even daze it now, which is even better. So we just crack the clue, get the daze, and then next turn we even have the ponder as a new pitch card. However, the opponent dazes back. So in this case, actually, if we didn't wasteland, but if we didn't wasteland, then daze wouldn't have worked. So I think the opponent just outplayed us here, but I don't see a line how we could have stopped this. Maybe you have an idea, but I don't see it right now, because yeah, if we didn't wasteland, then we can maybe. Yeah, because we played in. The problem is the clue crack. Due to the clue crack, we play into their days. Right, so. Yeah, maybe it would have been correct to not crack the clue and not wasteland, because they already have so much mana. And then we can force, and in case they don't have. Yeah, maybe that's the spot where I lost the game here. Because the opponent can daze me, and now I get my Tamio returned to hand, and I can play. But the opponent has Force and Flusterstorm, so I think regardless of what I did, I would be dead. And now I finally realize it's Doomsday, and I die. I cannot do anything about the Teferi. Because yeah, even my Bowmaster got killed. And yeah, I think this opponent played it really well, and I play Doomsday now and then, but I never played Esper Doomsday, and it's really hard for me to know what they are doing. But against Doomsday, if they use it like always on MTGO, maximize the exile zone and make a screenshot with the print screen key, and then you can watch it on a second monitor. But I don't see many white cards. I don't see any in exile. This is interesting. So maybe there's one. Maybe they only play 2 Teferis. So maybe it's more for the sideboard. Swords to Plowshares, Prismatic Ending, I think. Didn't we see a Prismatic Ending? Maybe this comes later. But other than that, it looks like a normal Doomsday deck. But I don't see. There is Lion's Eye Diamond. And I don't see Consider, and I also don't see Ideas and Unbound and no Deep Analysis. Okay. It's interesting build with the Tamios and no, there's Consider. Okay. Main board to Res, Swordseize, Preordains. Okay, that's always important. And yeah, let me know in the comments if I just misplayed this really hard, or if I played it correctly and just got punished for playing it this way. I think the way I did it maximizes screwing their mana with the Wasteland, but maybe this was not important. But yeah, I think they had, because they also had the Force and the Flusterstorm, but at least then they had to spend their Force, and then later we could use the Orcish Bowmaster. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments, but let's go to the next one. Now the trophy is really under pressure here. We have to win the next 2 games. So against this Esper Doomsday deck, I'm really unsure about the sideboarding. Maybe you can help me in the comments. Normally I bring in Consign to Memory against Doomsday, and depending on if I see their lists online, if they have many creatures to bring in, I decide like how much removal I cut, and like if I bring in Force of Negations or not, because if they have a really creature-heavy sideboard, they often take out the whole Doomsday package. But against this control-y Esper variant, I took out, I think, yeah, all the Fatal Push and 2 Dazes and a Nihil Spellbomb, and I kept the Go for the Throat, because sometimes they play like Murktide in the sideboard, or Sheoldred or Barrogoyf, and sometimes you don't have Revolt to activate Fatal Push. And so I brought in the Barrowgolfs actually also as an out if they have Barrowgolf, because I don't have the pushs anymore, the Force of Negations, and because of their 3-color mana base, I also brought in the 2 Harbingers and the Sheoldred's Edict as an out to their Teferi and also some creature. But yeah, let me know what you think. Maybe Null Rod against Lotus Petal. But yeah, I think they may bought out some of them. And the rest I decided to keep. I think Wasteland's really good against them. Nethergolf can pressure, Tamio, Recurse, Orcish Bowmaster, great. Cantrips, Thoughtseize, Kaito. I think it's all good stuff. So let's see how this works. So unfortunately the first hand has no land, the second hand has 3 lands, so we can get rid of one of the lands, and we can Thoughtseize here. So this is important because it's possible they do something early, like I don't know, Dark Ritual, Barrowgolf or something. I mean, we have the Force, but they could also have Daze. So I think Thoughtseize is really, really strong against Doomsday, except if they maybe play the green variant with Veil of Summer, but normally they have a few key cards that they want to accelerate into, like pre-board Doomsday, and in this case also Teferi and sometimes Barrowgolf and so on. And they decide to force my Brainstorm, and I decide to not force back. I mean, I could do it, because if they decide to force, maybe it's so important, maybe they have some keycard, but I think I can just force their keycard, and they don't have a land, so maybe they have Dark Ritual, Doomsday, force everything, but no land, and they just don't want to discard. I don't know what they have as a keep. And here I think this is a really good hand to punish this, so we can get the Tamio going. We should probably get rid. I mean, the Sheoldred's Edict is like we have 1 Force and 1 blue card anyways. So I think we should get rid of one of the forces, the Force of Negation, because we can only force once anyways, and keep the Sheoldred's Edict in case there's something like Dark Ritual out creature with a cavern or something. So we play the Tamio here. I mean, we could also do nothing and just keep up double force, but I think as long as the opponent is stuck on mana, we want to keep the Tamio going. I think it's better, because they must have a really, really strong hand if they kept a no-lander than the rest. So as soon as they draw a land, they must have a really, really good time. So yeah, we need to get Tamio going quickly and profit, and they draw a land here. Okay, but now we have Tamio going, and yeah, this is what we want. We can draw clues. The swords we actually force here, because I think we can wasteland their land. So early Doomsday is maybe not that improbable. I mean, they could have Dark Ritual, but then maybe they would have done it the last turn. We still have days, and we just can get here the train rolling. Let's Thoughtseize first, and they have Brainstorm, Dark Ritual, and Doomsday. So if we just take the Doomsday, I think we can collapse their hand. They still have Brainstorm, but we can make the prismatic ending worse by just removing the white source, and now we're in a really strong position. They can Brainstorm and hope to find something, but I think they need a lot. I mean, even if they Dark Ritual Doomsday now, we can Daze. But they use prismatic ending. We dazed it again. The Tamio is kind of our only threat, and against this control style deck, if the game goes too long, they will stick a Teferi and then do uncounterable Doomsday. So I think it's in this case important to protect the Tamio, but maybe you disagree, write in the comments. Maybe you can tell me I was way too aggressive with this Kaito, with this Tamio, but this was really the only thing I had going on here as a proactive game plan. And with the Brainstorm, I put back the Kaito for now. Opponent casts Ponder and does not shuffle, okay, and can kill our Tamio, okay, but at this point we have so many clues and we also have the Orcish Bowmaster. So now we can play the Bowmaster to get something in play, and we have the Kaito on top, and we first have to take care of the Teferi here. Opponent has the Force, Pitch, Preordain, and again the Teferi is really a big problem. Opponent decides to bounce or clue and draw a card. Fortunately, we kept the Sheoldred's Edict to get rid of the Teferi. Teferi is really dangerous. They have a Tamio and I draw a land and decide to just play the Kaito here as a non-ninjutsu play, and I tap down the Tamio. This is risky. If they draw a Brainstorm, then it doesn't do much, but I mean, they had no cards in hand, and now the Kaito is a really good engine going on. Force is great, Tamio is also great, so let's keep both. And we play the Tamio right now, but no, sorry, we can just go for a safe play. We have the clue token, so we just keep the Tamio for one more turn. Now we can end of turn use this so we don't lose to some stuff like Doomsday. Okay, we attack again with the Kaito. We are so far ahead, we can play safe. So Wasteland at this spot, I mean, together with a Daze, maybe it would be okay, but I think it's... but I did it here, okay, because I think just because I draw 2 cards per turn, so I can do it. So that's when we want to trade 1 for 1, but you could also argue that maybe the Wasteland isn't the best here. And the opponent scoops, and we just have one final game for the trophy. And in the last one, I took out the other 2 dazes as well and brought 2 Fatal Pushs back in because of the Tamios. I thought, okay, maybe those are really important in this matchup to get rid of them. Opponent cycles. Okay, that's interesting. That's not what you see very often. Maybe looking for a Doomsday. Maybe they have Dark Ritual or something. Plays Underground Sea and Preordain. Okay. Do we see what happens? 1 top, 1 bottom. Okay, so they must have another land. Otherwise, they would have put 2 on the bottom, and we have the Harbinger as a plan here. So, I mean, they can still do a lot with just blue mana in the Doomsday deck because they have so many cantrips, but they cannot play Sotsu Plowshares, Prismatic Ending, Teferi, and also Doomsday is difficult. So, I think this is worth it here. So, we have the Ponder to find additional protection. And we have it here in the form of Force of Negation. Okay, this is great. And yeah, for example, we may want to force a discard spell here just because the Harbinger is our plan. And now we have the Ponder. We play this one, and we don't want more lands because we already have 3, which is what we want, and they don't play Wasteland. So we have a really good strategy going on. We have the double blue card, double force going for the Harbinger of the Seas. So this is like our game ending play. Of course, if they now get Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Doomsday something, then maybe we can't do that much. There's the Barrow Golf. We could also go for the Barrow Golf now, but then they can swords it. So yeah, I think we should just play to our strategy here, play the Harbinger, and they also only have 1 land. They really are unlucky here. We see Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, so that's what makes Consign also not as good. And yeah, at this point, I think we are really far ahead. We play the Barrow Golf, we have triple force with double blue card, and we have the Thoughtseize as well. We take the Doomsday and the game is over. And yeah, we got a bit lucky, I have to admit, but I mean, if you win 10 games in a row, I think it's also not just luck. I think the deck is really good and I can recommend it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, what I did as misplays, what you want to see for the next video. So have a great day and see you later.